Agaliwo General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni ebigambo tebikyali byangu gyali anti buli olukya byongera okumutabukira. Omusango President Agulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine gwateeka mu kkooti y'ensi yonna ebikolobero byatuusiza ku bannayuganda yali alowooza mbu bigenda kuba byakiyita mu luggya kakati nno gujja bagedde. Waliwo obubaka buno okuva ebweru eyo anyasoke tubirabe.
And all the members who are here, I'm really pleased to see that you still hold this debate and commitment as well to save our motherland. Having been here and having been in the struggle, yeah, it is high time, I think, we look for alternatives from these hopeless, someone calls obnoxious laws around us. But we can't do it without being informed what is hitting us. Most people who are here may have heard the man by the name of Idi Amin. Idi Amin left Uganda with companies working for Uganda. All these companies have gone. What does it mean? Uganda was held at gunpoint, and the man holding it left the international community to strip it bare. They are now mining the resources in the ground. What do we have to do? We have to build the people power. And what does people power mean? Is self-reliance, as we've heard from our dear professor there. Self-reliance means that we have to do whatever little, whatever much by ourselves. We stop waiting for second-hand clothes from Europe. We stop waiting for second-hand cars from Japan. We should stop waiting, even Roundup from Europe being paraded. It's there to kill us. If we get out of this, at the same time, we get out of paying these electricity bills, which are more than the ones we pay here in London. The water bills, they scoop this water from Lake Victoria, but it's so expensive than the one we pay here in London. Unless we get out of these crippling mechanisms and we build our own, however small, and we build them to improve them, to serve us, we get that producing capacity other than waiting for someone to produce and govern us, take our power away. If we can do those little bits and then demand for government we feel comfortable with, I think if we do all that, we'll get what we deserve. But as currently we stand, being shuffled here, doing things halfway, it won't take us far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, comrade. Yes, James, if Dr. James, if you come in, then we'll hear from Professor. Thanks. Actually, yes, Dr. James, Simon, then we'll hear. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Docus, and thank you, Professor, and thank you, Egesa, thank you, Senyonjo, thank you, Everest, and thank you, Kato. I don't remember who else has presented. Mimi, thank you. I might have to differ a little from what a few people have presented, but perhaps accept some observations from Professor. And one thing that I want to mention is about organization structure. What can we do to attract camera? That was one of the questions. I find that most of the questions we are asking Professor, questions we should be asking ourselves. What can we do? A guesser who has just presented is from Busia. I'm from Busia. And for me, I come here and I do call. Yesterday, I was like, I want to see you people from Busia. I have been, if you call it mentoring, I've been mentoring you people every week. I want people to come on this wall, and I'm waiting to hear more presentations from Busia. And this is just trying to tell you that we can organize ourselves. Because the first thing I have been asking ourselves as people of Busia, we are given a district, and we are 395,000 people. I have been telling my people that other than breaking ourselves first into NRM, NUP, whatever, let's first appreciate that we are given a district. How do we run our district? What are the issues in our district that are non-political, that affect us? If you're talking about gold, gold is in Busia. The whole gold of 12 trillion US dollars is in Busia. And I am a destitute in America. If you go to Busia, we are destitutes there. So I have been asking ourselves, the teacher, Mr. Gesa, who has just spoken, has a master's, whatever, in education. But I've been asking him as a teacher, who did you vote? Who did you vote? And if you ask James to vote next time, who do you think James will vote? As Busia, I have been telling people that now we don't want to wait. We don't want to wait for campaigns. We want to instill leadership in Busia such that we are able to say that you are the one going to represent us. And I have been encouraging them, and I'm telling them that we are going to judge leaders for Busia from here, this wall. Come here and participate. And so for me, so far, so good. I guess I think if we can see how to elevate him to leadership in Busia, then he'll be a leader. On camera, was it Katoho asked? I don't remember. Camera. Those days, cameras were very difficult. It was very difficult to access camera. It was very difficult to access media. The social media is a camera. What content do you have to attract? Look at the content for the last 1 week or 2 weeks. The person who has a camera in Kampala is Bujingo. What content has he developed? How much can we control that? How much can we, as people who need change, create content? I am now creating content about snow in the USA where I am. If you look at how this place is covered, and if you look at the business between US and Uganda, it's basically oil. It's basically our resources. The strategic interest of US in Africa is our resources. And I'm like, they have snow, they want oil. But then they realize, well, these people whom you can fool with wars, make them fight, make them promote ADF, give them guns, and we take free oil. And this is something I'm telling even them where I am here. I go to Parliament, I go to the State House here and tell them that you people, look at you people, change things that you are dealing with Uganda. Actually, I have an appointment with the federal state here next week. They have given me an appointment. James, you have a lot of things that you are talking that are beyond. That was my house rep telling me that the things you are talking are beyond me, and yet we want you to be heard. So we are trying to make an appointment. Prepare yourself to come and address the federal state next week. Look at that. So we can organize, we can create following, we can create those cameras. For me, the cameras are there. The issue is, who are you on the camera? And those questions should be answered by us, not Eric. Now, do we want a revolution or an election? The people power movement was created more of as a revolution. And then we were twisted around into organizing ourselves into a government. So we are now part of the system that we chose to follow. And I am all the time questioning the diaspora people power. I think I would want to see more diaspora people power. I am not the best, but if they can do more things that look like what I'm doing, because who am I to start addressing the federal state here? Who am I? I'm James. And I have been telling you people about exist. Wherever you are, exist. Why are we in the diaspora? Most of us should be able to answer those questions. Are you an envoy in the diaspora? Are you an envoy? Or you are in the diaspora because of conditions at home? Then how best can you use conditions at home to speak where you are? It's not very easy to invent a new wheel, as Professor says, that we can talk about Ubuntu and what have you. The best examples that we see here, the democracies that work here, what do they look like? Right now, the US campaigns have a young man who is revolutionizing the Republican Party, and he's saying it is a revolution, not an election, because he says the revolution must start from the party itself. This party is of rich people who don't care about people, and he's coming up saying, no, let's revolutionize the party first. So how do we revolutionize ourselves into a revolution? Even if we went for an election, we are able to say we lost this election and we want to fight back. I think that's what I would say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mugeni. Simon, can you please come in? And then Dr. Derek will come in because Kato already spoke. Simon, can you quickly please come in?
Hey, hey, hello members. Happy New Year to everybody. This is Simon Achia Karamaja. Do you wish me to start the video?
If you can't,
Yeah,
not
sure.
safe, I'll put something on the screen.
All right, I'm not seeing the videos part of it here. All right. All right, thank you so much, comrades. Once again, Happy New Year to everybody. I am Simon Peter Achia. Thanks so much, the moderators, for today. Yes, it has been a quiet time for me to join this room because I was a little bit out of the country. I was in South Sudan doing something, but I'm now back to Kotido, Karamoja tribe. For the point number one is about the structural formation structures. Since when I was in Karamoja, we have not formed the structures. Since then, with the help of the coordinating team from the headquarters, we are like saying we are going to form structures. Since then, they never even called me to go ahead with the formation of the structures. But however, we have already made 15 people in the district for NUP per district in Karamoja. Those are the level, but the sub-county level, from the village level to the district, we have not yet formed those structures. But with the time, maybe if this year can open the mind of the coordinators coordinating us from the headquarters, we are going to do that. Comrade, I wanted to give you the summary of Karamoja for last year. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, maybe to read, most especially the issues of anger, the shotgun, the injured, the what. I have all those summaries, district by district, and people who have disappeared. I have all those reports with me. I don't know if I'm allowed to give to the members so that you know. But thanks so much, comrade, for really making noise for Karamoja sub-region. Without the diaspora team, without you members, insecurity would have continued to the level that would have finished Karamojong. But thanks so much, comrade Avik. Thanks to you. You fought so much for hunger in Karamoja sub-region, where you managed to make people survive to the season of harvest. And thanks so much for your making noise. And because of your noise, that's where the government got a little bit feared to stop doing what they were doing. This is the summary of Karamoja. People who were killed, people who died of hunger are this. I'm going to break them.
Comrade,
yes?
I actually, yes, I've muted your mic a bit. There is a bit of feedback, but yes, we will get, I've sent you a message because that's a Zoom for another, that's another session. Today, we actually are discussing organization. I know I sort of didn't brief you. And of course, we continue to fight for Karamoja. And we do believe that with organization, we should be able to bring all these problems that Uganda faces to zero. Yes, comrade, just a little bit on organization, and pose your question in just a few seconds, and then we hand over the mic. Yes, I'll unmute you again, Simon.
All right, thanks so much, Comrade Douglas, for guiding. I'm sorry if I've missed my. About the organizations, formation of structures in Karamoja, I had wrote a letter to the head office when I had arrived from South Sudan, to follow up the issue of structures formation, because since then, the time since the 14th of January, 2021 general election up to now, there were no structures. I wish if they can take this thing quick, because so that it can help in organization, it can help in mobilization team, it can help in fighting the dictator in Karamoja sub-region.
Thank you so much, brother. I will also ask you that you continue to send the email as well. Thank you.
Doctors, I think Mr. Eric can come in first before Mad. I don't know if you want Madways to come in, but I think Eric has been waiting for a while. Maybe Madways, can you be very quick and ask your question before Eric comes in? That will be the last question. Madways?
Okay.
Madways?
Yeah, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, we're audible.
I want to ask Mr. Eric, first of all, Happy New Year, and you'll come back again. Mr. Eric, about organization. I've watched the Barefoot Revolution of Burkina Faso 2014, and I've rewatched it several times. And it was well organized. The revolution was well organized. What was the secret behind the organization? Because the revolution was not led by any political leader. It was led by the people. What was the secret behind their organization? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I think that was perfect. And Eric, can you please take over and answer some comment on all the different questions and remarks?
Thank you so much. I will start with Medway, so the Barefoot Revolution in Burkina Faso. So also Thomas Sankara, one of the earlier questions, who are great historical examples of bottom-up organization of the people. Actually, before the local resistance councils, I think actually Museveni was inspired by Thomas Sankara, because he also had the local resistance councils in Burkina Faso during his period. But I think it was even before Museveni, before the Bush War happened, they already were doing it. And he again was inspired by those of, I think it was, I forgot from where Sankara was inspired again. But I think it's by bottom up to have a very, to have a system that can easily be replicated. So for example, in South Africa, they had a system that they divided the comrades in 3 groups. Commanders, so they were the leaders. The commandos, they were the protesters. They were going on the street. They did the non-violent action. And the intelligentsia, they were providing logistics, legal aid, logistical aid. So you make use of the strengths of individuals. People that have leadership skills, they can be leading the group. The people that are very brave or are able to have non-violent action, you use them in the second group, and those that are very skilled, for example, as lawyers or journalists or judges, you use them for the intelligentsia. So that was an important aspect. Then I also found that just the use of circles as a building stone of movements is quite powerful. For example, I was part of a circle with Joseph, myself. It was about a 5-man team. We were building U-Vote during the election. Patricia Namyalo was also part, and Nico, Dr. Nico. And within that group, and Joseph, you can add me if I'm missing members of the group, but we were a very effective small group. We were just 5 persons, but we divided our tasks. We regularly came together and we built a kind of solidarity, or like this effectiveness together. I'm starting to think that in Uganda itself, if we start to use circles as the main building stone of a movement, and then we can give everybody a role, a very defined role in that circle. For example, one of the persons is the leader, so the chair of the group. He makes the decisions. He chairs the meetings. The second very important part is responsible for logistics, so maybe the treasurer. Of course, very important that it's accountable and very we have the ethics of accountability already in place, but providing the resources the moment that you go out or the families are taken care of. There's enough food for the families when the people are protesting, or just thinking about the logistics. The third person is about vision. So I think one person should always be very thinking about what is the vision of the movement, doing historical study, comparing different revolutionary movements, the Barefoot Revolution in Burkina Faso, studying Amilcar Cabral, Thomas Sankara. So that person just has to be the educator of the group. The fourth person is the one responsible for camera or public relations, so social media. So when there's an action, that is the person that knows how to take movies, how to take pictures, how to upload it to social media with hashtags and powerful content. And then the final person is the one, I think, able to provide some first aid or some health support in case it's needed. So you have a group that whenever there's a nonviolent action, there's quite some skill available in each circle. Then when you organize 3 to 4 circles together, you start to build a whole movement based on those 1 circles, but you always can fall back on identity of 5 persons, because the solidarity within that group, that's the most powerful part. There is this aspect of trust. The moment there is not so much trust, a movement becomes weak, disorganized, and distrustful, able to be divided by the dictator. When a movement becomes very trusting, they trust each other with their lives, it becomes like a stone, like many arrows combined that you cannot break anymore because they're trusting each other. So that group of 5, I think that can be a building stone of the movement. Because what are we doing with organization? There are actually 2 things we're trying to organize. One is the population at large, so the new nation, the alternative structures. But also very important is the movement itself. The movement is like a non-violent army, opposed against the forces of the dictatorship. And just like armies, when it's not organized, no clear chain of command, no clear leaders, bottom-up consensus, like no training, it will not likely be very effective. However, when we make a movement very effective, then it starts to show, even when it is like in the Burkina Faso, it just shows when something is well organized, it has a very different feeling than when something is very disorganized. Something more about organization. So protesting. Remember last year with the big, the tour of Bobi Wine, these massive crowds. So also like mobilization is easy, but I think we should follow a blueprint as the people power movement. And that is mobilize, organize, institutionalize. So every time we have mobilized something, afterwards we should spend some time with activists to organize those that have attended the mobilization, the moment of coming together. Then when you have a very organized group, over the time, they become institutions. And institutions, they are the essence of democracy. When you have groups working together in a very democratic way, it becomes from organization, it becomes institutionalization. And institutions, they are the core of why Western countries at the moment are rich and why many other countries, like, it's the difference between sustainable long-term growth, political and economic and social growth. Furthermore, when we talk about elections, we talked about love or greed already. So who does election usually attract? I observed with Noob, like when people power movement started, a lot of my favorite heroes and activists, they became active. Many of the people power members, they are still my friends, and they've proven to be genuine over time. When you followed all the years, those that became active in the people power movement, most of them, they were they acted based on love for the nation. They self-sacrificed for the collective, for the greater good. But who does election attract? I found that often election attracts those that choose for greed, for self-interest, for positions. So when you focus on elections, you might be attracting, as I have seen in Noob, a lot of the individuals I've already forgotten again, because they proved to be corrupt. They just came for self-interest. They were relevant for some months, but as soon as we saw their true colors, we discarded them. That's the difference between the people power movement, where we have people like Dorcas, Joseph, that are still relevant as today because they are based by love instead of greed, instead of those politicians that came to elections of Noob, and at the moment we have forgotten them because they just came for themselves. So that's again why I love revolution, and I start more and more to dislike election in the context of dictatorships. And even in democracies, they might not always be a very powerful way of democracy. So essential that we accept election is not democracy and democracy is not election. Democracy is more about the people that are self-reliant, that they are critical, they have their own power, they dare to voice their concerns, they can solve things together, they're not dependent on leaders to save them. So democracy is much more than just election. And I think also we had a very powerful contribution about mediocracy, so that IDs are more important than the source. I think that was a very great insight. When we have an organization, when we have a movement where the IDs that are excellent, that they prevail over who is saying the IDs, then we become truly a very effective organization. Then we start to become very effective compared to a dictatorship where Museveni, where it's the source that's most powerful and the IDs are powerless, but it's the source. If we find a way to make those that are most skills, that they have the best IDs, that they are actually elevated in positions, and those that are not so effective or have led to defeats or somehow have not led to struggles, that they are somehow, I don't know, that the IDs are more empowered. I think in that sense, on the long term, we will always become more effective. And then there was also about self-reliance. So what are we indeed doing? We're building people power. In Burkina Faso, this was done with Faso Danfani. So it was a local clothing, just from the local cotton. They made the cloth instead of Western export. Still, Africa is so dependent on import. They're importing foods. They're letting clothes to be dumped, food to be dumped, instead of the self-reliance. Secondly, this taxation. So much of the income of the dictatorship is coming because of the extreme taxation in Uganda. So just, we can also think in organization, how can we organize that we can find ways to evade income streams to the regime? Just start to explore what are the income streams to the regime, how can we evade them? And that will also, of course, weaken the regime. So I think a powerful part is when we do more and more organization is non-confrontational, it is legal, but in the end it is more powerful, likely even more powerful than protesting, which is illegal and dangerous. So when we use those crowds to organize themselves in a non-confrontational, legal and powerful way, likely we go much faster because we reduce fear, we increase power and confidence. And then when we protest, it's going to be very effective because we're so organized. So protesting, start to see it not as a beginning, but more as an end phase, an end results, a final push. That's the most powerful part of protesting, not yet at the beginning phases when the people are still weak and the regime is still powerful. The most powerful protests are when the people are already strong and the regime is weakened. They are just struggling to survive, and then we use protest to push them into weakness. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. That was an excellent summary. You've actually elaborated very well on all the different points and questions that people asked. Dorcas, I don't know if you want, because we are basically on time, I don't know if you want me to say my last words and then you close it. Dorcas, I want your guidance before I Dorcas, I guess, yes.
Speaking to a muted mic, yes, comrade, please go ahead and speak to us. And of course, it is really energizing listening to our professor. Yes, please do speak to us, and thank you so much for co-hosting. Thank you so much. Comrades, we were meant to spotlight the different demonstrations all over Europe. However, we haven't done so. I haven't received any footage or any pictures, so we will do much later on our page or on Facebook. Apologies for that, comrades. But also, this is to remind you, it is a protest marches we are learning. So I should be able to share our tweets on the screen shortly. Yes, Joseph, go ahead and do speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm actually just giving my last summary of our discussion. We were very privileged to have Eric here, talking to us about organization, why it's important in a revolution, in any kind of system or people power movement that is trying to overturn dictatorship. So that was really useful. And again, we learned from the Burkina Faso movements, and of course, the Museveni also kind of got inspired by the same source of organizing from the bottom up, empowering the people from below. That is the root cause of any success. So that was a very, very critical point. And of course, the issue of elections not being ideal in a dictatorship. And I agree with Eric that especially in the case of Uganda, what I see right now, a lot of people that are agitating for elections are looking for it for the benefits they're getting out of it. As Eric said, they're getting really great perks and in Western terms, they're living as millionaires. And so these people are agitating to go in parliament so that they can get those perks, and they're not really doing anything. Mimi said, oh, MPs have had an impact, that without them, things would be much worse. I actually beg to differ a little bit because yes, they've spoken out and asked questions, but really nothing has changed. The abductions continue, the corruption continues unabated. Some of the stuff they point out, even NRM people before them actually, like I think Mwanga Chibu, these other NRM people like in Seriko sometimes raise the same issues about the corruption, so the fact that they speak out and question the government and whatever, it's great that they're highlighting those issues, but nothing has changed. No real impact. Our people continue to be languishing in jail, and nothing really has changed. It was promising when they walked out of parliament, demanding freedom for people that are abducted or missing, but then they went back right in. Meanwhile, the situation continues to be the same. The Human Rights Commission saying, oh, these people, everything's a lie, but they continue serving. So the impact is really kind of debatable, what kind of impact they've had. I think one way is to, if you could boycott an election, yes, okay, and then say, okay, basically that's one way of saying that this is an illegitimate election, an illegitimate regime, So if they have an NRM, a parliament full of the NRM people, it's kind of like, okay, that's basically an NRM instrument. We boycott the election. If the opposition, obviously, the question is, can the opposition jointly decide to boycott the election? That's a $1 million question. But if they could do that, then you have an illegitimate government because the opposition boycott the election, and then you can mobilize around that, whereby people, make it difficult for the regime to collect taxes and stuff like that, and then the world knows that Ugandans are fed up of these sham elections, and they boycotted it. Even though you have an election, you have a parliament, but that parliament, even now, basically what it's doing right now is that we have a parliament which had an opposition, which kind of more or less legitimizes the regime in some way, saying, oh, look, we have opposition in parliament, so they are basically on board, and nothing much is happening. So, but if we stay out of the parliament, it's kind of like saying this is illegitimate. Ugandan people don't recognize the parliament because it's really a rubber stamp parliament. Even with opposition, it's still a rubber stamp parliament. So, so I agree with Eric on that point that elections are not ideal in this kind of situation. And then you talked about mottos, Eric, of like people are talking about the Constitution and what can we do and what kind of mottos we can look at. And I agree with you that we have to look at African traditions or systems in fashioning a system that works. Because basically what we have right now since independence in many African countries, and that's why we have really messed up, is that we kind of like transition from colonial masters to they say black, colonialists in black skin, meaning we continue the system, the legal system, the political system. We kind of like continued, it didn't change anything. We just said, okay, this is our inheritance, and we're just gonna continue it, despite the fact that many of our people in the countryside could not relate to these systems, the Westminster system, the legal system. They're not their mindset is still steeped in this traditional system in some way. And only the elites that are educated, and that's why they exploit the people. Because, if you're a lawyer and you know that, oh, you know what, I can steal as much money as long as I go to court and I get a good lawyer and say, okay, prove innocent until proven guilty. And how do you work with that as an illiterate person? I get a lawyer, I get off scot-free. Whereas, so now this is where I go back to what you said. Botswana is one example in Africa, which has tried to bridge the modern system with our traditional system. You have this thing called the COGLA system, and Botswana is one of the most successful African countries. It's not had a coup. It has incorporated basically some of its traditions, and which kind of upheld the governments, or at least from the local levels, from bottom up, accountable. And Botswana it has some of the highest, even though it started off as the poorest African country. Of course, it has a lot of minerals, a lot of diamonds, and it's relatively less corrupt. It's one of the least corrupt countries in Africa. I think it's on par with Spain in terms of international indices, even though they have a lot of mineral resources, because they have this system, these traditional councils, and even their traditional leaders were incorporated into their constitution in a way that they are like kind of an advisory council, whereby, before the government, they have to be consulted in some ways. So we need to look at the models like Botswana, of how do they bridge that. So that's one way to kind of create a new constitution that is, of course, we have different traditions, different countries, in different regions, and that's where decentralization and local systems and local, maybe kind of like a federal system locally, whereby each region has some ways of incorporating some of its traditions. For instance, when Kony devastated the North, the people said, well, we want this Mato Oput system, like a local reconciliation system. That they kind of rejected the court system because they said, these are our children, we had our own traditional system, which we can help, we can use, reconstruct, or kind of get some reconciliation. And they use that to reintegrate the Kony children that have been, have been causing havoc. Whereas in a Western legal system, those cases would have been either executed or put to prison for life. But they said, well, no, this doesn't work for us. And and really, it helped the society to somehow recover. Now, in Rwanda, they also had something called the Gacaca courts. Gacaca courts, again, is more or less the same concept. And in different parts of Uganda, we had different systems. But a local system, council leaders, elders would sit and consensus, and there was no such thing as innocent until proven guilty. If the community as a whole, they would set, if I saw something, they'll sit me down in the council, and then the guilt and the shame will force me to confess what I've done, because it was something which was built within the system, and it was strong enough to get people to comply and to reconcile whatever, to the community, whatever they did. So we need to kind of go beyond this colonial mentality when we are fashioning the new system. Now, I think also maybe mention about, we can't wait until it's true, we need to build these systems. And luckily, I have to say that because I've been in an opposition kind of politics for a while, I've been involved in a lot of Ugandan groups that have actually looked at, okay, what do we do in case of 74? They've written papers about governance, about different sectors. So there are a lot of papers that Ugandans have written. And I was actually part of a little group that wrote a lot of papers about all the different sectors and how to reform them. And the question is, and so basically, I think there is no shortage of that. It's just the question is that now within the party, hopefully, I mean, that should be something which the Secretariat should have been working on, because it's been 3 years. So if we're gonna, it's gonna take power, what is in place to do that? It should not be the work of us, a diaspora, even though we can contribute. But this is something, the question is what is being done locally to get fashion all this, because they're more informed about the corruption, about all the challenges. This is something they should have been doing. And hopefully anyone who has that direct connection, tell them, I mean, 3 years is a very long time. If you're serious about getting power, these are kind of policies that should have been fashioned locally, and then share them with the diaspora so we can have some kind of input. But thank you so much, Eric. I think these are great deliberations, very good ideas, and we hope to get more of your wisdom. You're the revolution master. I'm not so much versed in revolutionary ideology, but I think these are very good, discussions, and we hope to have more you coming and educating us about how we can organize ourselves around these ideas. Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you so much, Dorcas, and thank you everyone that contributed today. That is it for me, Dorcas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm actually trying to get the tweets up, but we haven't heard from Comrade Ismail. If you could please unmute and speak to us before Professor goes. And also, comrades, get your Twitter up, open and running, because we should tweet before we close. Just in 2 minutes, then we close. We should close in 5-10 minutes. Yes, Comrade Ismail, please do come in and speak to us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, comrades. Thank you very much, Professor. Yes, I've been listening in, but I'm trying.
Sorry, we can't see you, or are you okay? Sorry, comrade.
Sorry, I'm driving at the minute, so I won't be able to put on my video. Yes, thank you very much, all comrades, all of you who have turned up. Just a quick question before Professor goes. Is there any homework that you would like to leave us so that for next week when we come back here, we would have started on this and say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Is there anything that you leave us with?
Yes, perfect. So whatever, of course, also Doctor talked about Busia or whatever district or whatever community or whatever group you're part of.
Yeah.
How can you think about, so next week when we meet again,
yeah,
I want you all to have a plan. How can we get more organized? So think from your own perspectives. And because those 30 in this group, you will be the main organizers in your own communities or your own districts. So start to think, how can I organize my own group, district, or just those that I have influence or some respect that people will be interested in what I have to say. And when we have this bottom up from this group start organizing, within 1 year, we will be very far, I believe.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dorcas, I think your mic is back to you.
Yes, Joseph, if you do take it on for seconds, just trying to sort out the Twitter. I don't know what is happening, but otherwise we might have to close and do the Twitter later. Thank you.
Okay, I see Tamale. Tamale, can you please, I think this...
I hope that is our last hand. Because
yeah, this is going to be the last time because we actually run out of time. But let me, since you are working on Twitter, I was going to give you some time. If it doesn't work, then Tamale, can you please unmute and I don't know, it's not unmuted. Tamale? Okay, it's not unmuting. So I think we may have to, unless Eric, do you have any last words before we go?
No, so I do have a bit of delay. As you might know, it was already a long time ago, a year ago. I've been working on like all the lessons how to organize the revolution into a book. I've now finalized the Dutch version, but I heard today there's still some delay. It will likely still take 1 month to complete the Dutch version. Then I think it will take 2 months, maybe 1 month to translate English. But I can't wait to share it, because all these lessons about how to organize a revolution, it has 3 parts. The first part is the analysis of how does it lead to the current system. The main point is that actually the colonial system that was built to divide, to deceive, and to make the people dependent, it was adopted by the local elites, the African local elites, and therefore it was not abolished, it was just copied. And white dictators were replaced for black dictators. So actually colonialism has never changed, never stopped. It has just changed. The colonial system is still into place up to today. And there's 2 ways that it functions: the mental change and the physical change. And the goal of the colonial system is control of the few over the many. So the minority that can control the majority of the population. How they do it? For example, they did it by chiefs, by tribes, the tribal division, the customary law to believe that the chief was so the empowerment of the leader, of the boss, the chief empowerment instead of the people themselves. And then what is the solution? That's part 2. We need to break the mental chains. We need to decolonize our minds. We need to awake, we need to unite, and we need to build towards this new alternative. So it creates a vision for how to, based not on Western ideas, but on Fanon, on Amilcar Cabral, on Lumumba, on Mandela. So the African original ideas from the source. What did they say? And I combine them into a vision. What can be a vision for the African revolutions? The third part is about me as the military strategist. How do we organize a revolution? So how do we break the physical change? How can we ensure that we use our power, the people power, to actually organize a successful revolution? So those 3 parts, they lead to kind of manifesto of, I call it the unfinished revolution. As Frantz Fanon, I think it was 1962, he already said, we need to finish the African revolution. But unfortunately, his words were forgotten, but his message is as relevant as today. And my manifesto is kind of to remind us of the mission we got from Fanon. So I'm translating it, I'm finalizing as soon as possible, but when it's ready, I'm absolutely sure anyone in this group will absolutely love it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Eric. That's a new, I didn't know about that. That is excellent. We are looking forward to that as soon as it's out. We definitely will disseminate it as much as possible and encourage our colleagues to get it.
One more addition. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with Machiavelli. So there was the wealthy noble, the Medici in Italy. They were the ruling party. And then Machiavelli, he wrote a book for them to talk about how can you rule and governance. So actually this book, of course, it's directed to all of you, but it's also in a sense like Machiavelli to the Medici. This book is like to my brother Bobby Wine, that I can say like, brother, this is in the sense of Machiavelli, this is how we can do it. Sort of a guideline of how to organize the Ugandan revolution, but it's much broader. I put it in the perspective of the African continent at large.
Thank you. The Counter Prince. The Prince was the Machiavelli's book. I guess that's what you're referring to.
The
right?
Counter Prince. It's a great name, actually. Counter Prince, yes.
The Counter Prince. Oh, great. Thank you so much, Eric. That was excellent. Dorcas, can you please
Yes,
give us your last word?
I just sort of wanted to say that the pictures are starting to come in. Well, it's a bit late, but these are our comrades in Stockholm. That's Sweden. They're protesting on ground. We continue to protest for the missing 18 people in Uganda, and of course, many other missing comrades, and the political prisoners must be freed. So this is what I'm showing on screen. I'm trying to, for those that are able to go to our page and share the tweets. Joseph, I don't know if you can access it. I am struggling. So maybe
okay.
just share a tweet in the chat, and then we close.
Thank you so much. Go ahead. I've not looked at my tweets, but I see Joe. Isn't Joe from Sweden?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I asked Joe to sort of, Joe, are you able to come in and tell us briefly, then we close? Because I sort of wanted you to showcase your demonstration, then we can close. Let's get Joe.
I see Joe here. Let me see if I can unmute
Where
him.
is he? Oh, there. Okay, Joe, you co-host. Please do come in and share your protest with us. Thank you. Joe is on ground. Hopefully, we should be able to see some footage. Otherwise,
I asked him to unmute, but it's not unmuting. I don't know if he's not in a position to.
Joe, your co-host, you can actually unmute anytime.
Oh, yeah, yes. Mr.
Okay.
Joe?
Yes, you need to share your video. Joe, we can't hear you. Right, I will share. Okay.
How many more stations?
Okay, here it is.
How many more stations? Oh, the next one.
Okay, yeah, no worries. When Joe is ready, we should hear from him. However, we are closing. I don't know if any one of you, Ismail, are you able to go to our Stand Up Uganda? The handle is at Stand Up Uganda. Let's share a tweet. But basically, the tweets are mainly about the NAM summit that is going to be held on the 15th and 20th of January. So whenever we have a chance to protest, let us do so. These delegates convening, we've seen the luxury vehicles that have been purchased, and we are wondering, okay, with all the potholes, maybe they should have bought them a plane. So these are the sort of things that we have to address. So the tweets are talking about Museveni's illegitimate regime, the gross human rights violation, the murders, the torture, the rape, they're killing people, they're killing Ugandans. Let them discuss things as those instead of investment and tourism. What is it that those delegates are going to discuss, you know? And there's so much poverty in Uganda. We've seen them buy all those luxuries, the vehicles and stuff. Joseph, if you can talk briefly about that, then we close, because that is what the tweets are all about. And I'm failing to get the tweets to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try and share my screen. I am totally failing.
I'm gonna share the tweet. One of the tweets. I just want you guys reading
on NAM. Yes, because we've got a giant card as well about NAM and saying why. Okay, please go ahead, and then we close.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much, Dorcas, for that. Actually, I think last week or a week or so ago, I tweeted about these conferences. The first one was the Commonwealth Speakers Conference, which was held, and then now the Non-Aligned Movement. NAM is the Non-Aligned Movement conference, and then right after that, there was a G77. They're all being held at Munyonyo in Kampala this month. And the regime was so clever this time. They organized it very, very quietly. So I found out very, very late, like in December, just a week before. the conferences were happening, because they knew that if we had known, I think there would have been a lot of noise and all that. But yes, for this conference, I guess everyone saw about the upgrade of Entebbe. I think they kind of upgraded Entebbe just in time to welcome its delegates. They gave this guy from Nyonyo, Sudir, they gave him millions of dollars to upgrade yet again the Commonwealth Resort. It was not actually complete. So the Commonwealth Speakers Conference was held in a tent because the money was supposed to upgrade, but it was not complete. Maybe it's complete now. But a lot of wastage of resources. But the key thing here is that by holding these conferences, the international community is legitimizing the regime. You know, as Ugandans, when the roads, you know, they put up this funny, shiny infrastructure, hotels, the Nyonyo Resort, and whatever to impress the international community. Meanwhile, the roads and the hospitals and everything is just a big mess. And of course, the abduction continue, our people continue to be in prisons. And, you know, by having this international conference, like, oh, look, you know, this is more or less normalizing the regime and giving it legitimacy. So we are opposed to these conferences being held on the back of the Ugandans. And of course, the non-aligned movement conference, because the non-aligned movement is supposed to be, I think that was during the Cold War, whereby countries were saying, well, we are not either, you know, we pursue our own interests, we're neither West or East, you know, we're not going to fall into, you know, whether we support the Soviet Union or we support the West. We're going to be unaligned. We're going to do what pleases us, you know, depending on our interests. But of course, in the case of Museveni, it's really, even though the whole is non-aligned movement, Museveni is very much aligned to the West. I mean, is you know, in the Congo, they're routing all the resources. Mr. Mugen was talking about the gold in Busia. By the way, the gold, the 1.5 billion that Kaleta was talking about, is actually mostly gold from the Congo. In fact, the U.S. State Department put a sanction on a company, a Belgian company that was finding that gold in Uganda. You know, this so-called $1.whatever trillion, whatever, we do have gold in Uganda, but it's mostly artisanal gold mining. It's nothing, there's no large-scale production of gold in Uganda. It's mostly small scale, and this, you know, class that is using local people to mine it, but, you know, like in very primitive and crude ways. But the gold in Uganda, actually, we don't have that much gold. It was debunked, that whole thing of $1.whatever trillion worth of gold. That was a lie. It was a lie because the US had just sanctioned Ugandan gold, you know, and so they say, well, but look, we have our own gold. So in any case, we are saying that we don't want these conferences being held in Uganda because of these different things. Museveni is, again, aligned to the West in terms of the interest in the Congo, exploiting the resources, supposedly helping them interest in Sudan, secure refugees and all that. So what kind of non-alignment are we talking about? You know, having this huge conference in Uganda. Again, after that is a G77. So we need to highlight it. And thank you so much, Dorcas, for these tweets. I shared a tweet, and I'm sure if you go tweet what Dorcas tweeted, you will see more of the tweets about that summit. So thank you, Dorcas, for that. I give you the mic back to you.
Thank you so much. And once again, would like to thank Professor Eric, and apologies for holding you. Those that were expecting Honorable Tamaguzi, he did have some challenges. So hopefully next week, we should be able to hear from him. Apologies for that. However, we still have had a very good session here with our professor. We are hopefully you guys have been educated and empowered, and look forward to other sessions. Yes, let's unmute everybody. Please, comrades, do not forget to tweet. It is important for us to amplify the tweets that are on the platform. I am unable to access them and share them. The handle is at Stand Up Uganda. Our name is Uganda is Bleeding. We do not stop at lamenting, but we go further and say, speak up Uganda, stand up Uganda, because that's what we must do to take action. Thank you so much, our Professor Eric. I don't know, I think, Professor, you're still with us. we are closing. I think, do you want to speak for a minute before we close? Okay, I think Professor is not here. Joseph, is he? Okay, yes, let's unmute everybody. New York Kid, you can have a minute and then we close the meeting. I don't know if you want to have a minute because we are closing now. Thank you. Right. Yes.
Yeah, just thank you for everyone for attending today. And Mr. Eric, special salute, very educational. And like Ms. Docker says, please treats. That's our next weapon. That's our only weapon we got. This G7777 now must be just like we did the concert. We did the concert of UB40. We must also try to figure out, because this is, I feel like this would be the best way to, I know people are scared to protest, but I remember what our president came out and said, it's time for Kulabisa. That would have been the best time to Kulabisa, because all the eyes going to be on Uganda at that point in time when he has this fake summit, which means it will make it harder for him to actually abuse or even try to limit how much he would try to tear gas or attack Ugandans. So and that's why I think he did it secretly, so we didn't know about it. Because I would have been, I tried to get some people to get there, but it was a little too late for the moment for them to get to that protest. But if we had some people to protest where this summit's supposed to be, it really would have helped a little bit. But nonetheless, thanks for everyone that was on here today. Ms. Dorcas, thank you. It's never enough that you're able to do this on a regular basis, and everyone else that's always part of the team. Thank you, and everyone have a good, blessed day.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you. Those that will be watching in on Facebook, do amplify sound as well throughout the week. We are here again next Saturday. Thank you so much, comrades. You're all unmuted. I'll call on one of you, I think, Modi or any other person, to close the meeting, please. You should all be unmuted. Let someone test that. A people power call would be ideal. Thank you. Come on, guys.
People power.
Our power.
Our power.
People power.
People power. One Uganda.
One people.
One people.
One Uganda. Child, good on you, Robert.
Our president.
Our president.
Oh, Lutalo, Ngaluete, Tuliambale, Tuliambale, oh, Lutalo, Ngaluete, Tuliambale, Uganda, Tuliambala, when the struggle is over, we shall wear the victor's crown. We shall wear the victor's crown. We shall wear the victor's crown. When the struggle is over, we shall wear the victor's crown. In the Uganda. People power.
Our
power.
People power. Thank you so much, everybody. Museveni must go. # stop Museveni. Thank you.
Thank you. Dictator must go.
Thank you.
Dictator must go.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Invite someone. Saturday. Invite someone.
Yes,
Go.
comrade.
Byebyo embeera eriwo yakutereza ggwanga lyaffe yakulwana tutereze ensi yaffe yakugoba nakyemalira General Kaguta Museveni asobole okuyagalira mu nsi yaffe okuyagalira mu Uganda eno asobole okuba nti buli munnayuganda abeera musanyufu mu nsi ye asobole okuba nti buli kye tukola buli kye twetaaga Uganda yaffe ebanga ekiyina enguudo ennungi amazzi amayonjo amasomero amalungi amalwaliro nga galimu eddagala wamaggwe buli muntu abeerenga yeeyagala buli muntu abeerenga musanyufu buli muntu abeerenga yeeyagalira mu nsi ye yeeyagalira mu ggwanga Uganda tujja okuba obulungi tujja okuba abenyumiriza mu nsi yaboobwe kubanga wano ewaka waffe tulina ewaka walala ate ng'eno ensi abaana baffe balina ogyeyagaliramu eno ensi abaana baffe balina nabo okugifiiringa nti yeyaabwe nti ye Uganda yaabwe tewaliyo walala wano we tuli naweka tulina okulwana okuterezaawo ffe ffennyini abazadde abaliwo abaana abaliwo abalenzi abaliwo abawala abaliwo bannayuganda abaliwo kuguno omulembe gw'omukulembeze Kyagulanyi Ssentamu tolaba kimu tulina okukikola buli omu tulina okumwengeejinga wamu tulina okutuukawo buli kimu tulina okukiteekamu amaanyi gaffe so okutereeza ensi yaffe kale mbaagala nnyo mwenna abaliko mwebale kubaako Mukama Katonda asaba bankuumire tujja kuba tuddamu banywanyi mweraba